Alright, in this tutorial we'll take a look at converting your Fusion 360 design file into an STL file. An STL file is a file that we can then insert into MakerBot Print. Once we have the STL file, we can then start setting up MakerBot Print to print it. So we'll break this down here and we'll just first generate an STL file. So as you have your product designed, or what you think is going to be your product design, we need to export this. I call mine Sticky Note 2. This is the second one I've designed. But I want to export this as an STL file, stereolithography. This is common in 3D printing. Some do take OBJ files, but STL files are consistent across the board. Where do you want to save this? If it's your personal computer, you could save it to your desktop. If it's a computer here in the classroom, when you are here in person, don't save it to the desktop. Maybe you have a USB drive. You could save it to the OneDrive or your student folder, the Z drive. So I'm going to opt to save this to the Z drive, and I'm going to hit save. I'm going to then hit export. I've already done this. So what's going to happen is there'll be a status bar here, and it will take a little while for the status bar to complete the file conversion. I've done this ahead of time, so it wouldn't take too long. It does take quite a while. But at this point, I don't need to show this in Explorer or anything. I'm just going to close this. As I go to MakerBot Print, after it has exported, I'm going to go to File and Insert File. I put mine on my Z drive. Should be pretty easy to find. You won't have too many STL files at this point. And we are going to then open this file, and now it's on the build plate. In terms of orientation, your product does have to have this blue outline for you to manipulate the orientation. First off, I can just drag it around. If I drag it outside of the build plate, this perimeter will turn red. If it is oriented in the wrong position, by default, we can orient this in 90-degree increments just by selecting which way we want to rotate it. There is a triad here in the lower left-hand corner that gives you an idea of what axis you're rotating it on. So if yours came in, let's say like this, and you want it to be flat against the build plate, I'm going to change the orientation. The next thing we want to do, since this is a single piece, a single part, we do want this centered. Our most accurate prints come when it's in the center of the build plate. If you select Arrange instead of doing this manually, it will auto center on the build plate, being that this is a single part. If your part is too big, which it shouldn't be based on the design requirements I set forth, but if it is too big, if it is outside of this build volume, your box will also turn red. So first off, we have now inserted a product that you have designed, an STL file, into MakerBot Print. We have gone through and exported this as an STL file. And saving it to where you will then have access to it. Once we have it exported, we can then insert this file, that STL file, into MakerBot Print.